So the video you're about to watch is a Zoom webinar I did on chartering in Greece. You're going to see that my production values and maybe my presentation isn't as crisp and sharp as the one you just saw for Svalbard, but as they say, practice makes perfect. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy chartering in Greece on board the mighty Asteria. So good morning. And anyway, it's sometimes I find it a little difficult to do these talks via Zoom because I can't see your reactions. So what this is going to be a half-hour talk on chartering in Greece, and we're going to be using the motor yacht Asteria. Now, Asteria is a boat that's near and dear to my heart. I've been on a couple of big adventures with her. I took her from Cabo all the way up to Alaska. I brought her up to Greenland this summer, and this summer she's going to be in Greece. But for those of you who don't know me, I'll give you a little bit. I'll give you a little background on myself. So, I currently right now I'm a broker for Worth Avenue, but that's not where I started. I was privileged to be captain on charter vessels all over the world. I ran back in the day a boat called Ohana, which is a lot of you guys remember. It's Gina, who I see you in the group here. You put some charters on board on that boat, and we had some great stuff there. I have done a lot of other interesting trips. I was on board a boat called Latitude for 4.5 years. We were in Boat International a lot. We were nominated for 4 Boat International awards, including refit awards and several Voyager awards. And of course, we did the movie called The Highest Latitude. And if you haven't seen that, that is about as good as an adventure as I've ever had. And it was really part of what I like to call the perfect customer experience. And that video is on YouTube. And you can, if you put in The Highest Latitude, it will come up. So, but what else I want to talk about is some of the tools that I use on board vessels to put together really winning itineraries. First and foremost, one of the best tools that I think that you can use to put together an itinerary is Google Earth. This is going to tell you where great anchorages are, where you can really dial things. You can really dial things in and really check. If anyone's has not muted their microphones, can you just make sure that you do mute your mics? Anyway, the other thing is another program I use is called seaweather.net. Again, it's a great weather program. I'll get a little bit more into that. And several books like the Greek Waters Pilots, which you could get at Blue Water right in Fort Lauderdale. And finally, other captains who have been there before. Now, before we get started into chartering, I want to talk to you a little bit about my philosophy about chartering in general. And long ago, I used to joke that what we do or the industry that we're in, it's not like we're curing cancer. And it was after I did a charter on board New Vita, which is now my Sienna, which is now Starship, that my tune changed. And I'm going to give you the quick version of it. I had a Russian client that when he arrived with his family in Greece, he was sullen, he was gray. And after about 3 days of this, I asked him, I said, is there anything that we're doing wrong or that we could be doing better? And he said, no. He says, I just have a lot on my mind. He said, when I go back to work, I have to lay off 30,000 people. And that was a real blow to him. He managed the largest car factory in the world with over 300,000 employees. So it was 10% of his workforce. So anyway, that charter turned out to be one of the best I've ever done. Now, the goal was he wanted to reconnect with his family. He wanted to spend time with his children. He kind of wanted to regain himself again. And over the course of 10 days, I watched that happen. I watched him get tan, get healthy, really reconnect with his family. And at the end of that trip, he came to me. He's in the pilot house for pulling back into Monaco. And the end of that trip, he came to me and he goes, I think I figured out a way to keep those 30,000 people employed. And it was right then and there that I realized that we may not be curing a physical cancer, but we're curing a cancer of the soul. And it's the same thing that like Disney does to the guy that works at the factory. He can go to Disney and work there for 2 weeks and forget about his lousy factory job. But when you do that to the 1% of the 1% with people that really control the lives of hundreds of thousands of millions of people, you're really making a difference. And that's how important I think your job as a charter broker really, really is. You get to change, you get to influence events on a geopolitical level that nobody does just by doing a great job. So with that in mind, that's why I really try to own the entire charter experience. So this picture is another story, but if you want to ask me about that, we can do that when I've got a bit more time. So anyway, let's look at the motor yacht Asteria. Asteria she's not as sexy as some of the more modern yachts out there. She was built in 1969 as a rescue tug. She was refit in the early 2000s into what you see today. She's done the Northwest Passage. She's done Antarctica. She's a true world cruiser. The current owner bought her in 2019 and did a massive refit in New Zealand. Redid the interior. I recommend that you go to the Worth Avenue website if you want to see the interior photos, and they truly don't do it justice. The boat is cavernous. It is a massive, massive 52-meter. Anyway, on board that boat, we've got tons of toys, and you can see this is a picture that was taken in the Caribbean just a few months ago, and you can see that little. You've got the little inflatable docks out there. That's like the crane, someone swinging off that crane onto those docks. The boat has kayaks, jet skis, 2 Zodiac tenders, a jet tender, a North Wind tender, 2 sailboats, sea bobs, a nitrox dive compressor, tons of stuff. Now, what you're seeing right there, that's actually before she had the new bimini top fitted out and the helideck that was redone. Now, that helideck back there is a great place to throw. I've thrown, we did a party, Worth Avenue had an event on board her in Manhattan. We could have done a party for about 100 back there. It's a great, great top deck space, especially in a place like Greece. There's just another view of her while she's at anchor with all the toys out. And then finally sailing up onto her. I think actually that this picture was taken down in Cabo when I was on board, and you can see the North Wind tender just alongside of her. This picture I just love. I mean, this was taken this last just a couple of months ago off Santo Domingo. That's a sperm whale, and that's the owner of the boat took that particular shot. And there's a on board Asteria, we've, along with the dive equipment and the snorkeling equipment, we've got underwater videography equipment. I think we've got a couple of good underwater cameras, and we've got a couple of guys on board that are able to really get these shots. And then just one final shot of just this is actually from a drone from a bunch of narwhal that they took up at the beginning of the Northwest Passage when they went to Devon Island last winter. Excuse me, what am I talking about? Last summer. And finally, she's a great looking boat at night off the Statue of Liberty. One of my favorite places to end a charter is right there with that view, and then the view of the Manhattan skyline in the background. Gina Robertson and I did one of my, I think, all-time favorite charters for a client of her, which ended right on that particular scene, and that was probably one of the epitomes of the perfect customer experience. Now, what would a charter be without a theme party? Well, in Greece, you can have a 300 theme party. You could have the classic toga party on board. Of course, that's from Animal House, for those of you who don't know. The Mamma Mia party on board her. And then finally, what would a party in Greece would be without Greece? So that's just about the boat. But what I'm going to talk to you about now is actually chartering in Greece. And I'm just going to go to a different screen, and we're going to share that screen. And again, if anyone has any quick questions, you can pop those in the chat bar if you want. We'll be doing a Q&A at the end if people have specific questions. All right, let's share the screen. And there we go. So this charter is from Bodrum to Bodrum. Now, the reason that we start in Turkey, and this is a question that I get a lot from a lot of different people, is like, well, I want to charter in Greece. How come we're starting in Turkey? Well, there's a lot of different laws that that need to be complied if you do want to start in Turkey. Obviously, if you're a Greek flag vessel, that's the easiest way to do it. But for non-Greek flag vessels, you need to have a Greek charter license, and a Greek commercial charter license, and that can be time-consuming and complicated. The much easier way is just to start out of Bodrum, and Bodrum is well set up for embarking and disembarking passengers. And I'll go into a little bit about Bodrum in a second. But first, some more just rules and regulations in Greece. Another big question I get is, of course, about personal watercraft, i.e. jet skis. And Greece does have laws similar to the rest of Europe, though I don't know if they're as vociferously enforced as in places like France or, say, Palma or other places. And basically, here's the skinny on the jet skis. So 300 meters of shore under full speed. If they're closer than that, they got to be going 3 knots. And here's an interesting little thing for Greece. There's an afternoon quiet time of 1:30 to 6 p.m. where you're not supposed to use the jet skis. Now, I don't know how much that's enforced. So that's going to be probably determined on the little islands that you rock up to. And with the only island that you're forbidden to jet ski near is on Paros, and that's one of the islands on our itinerary. So let's get started. So this itinerary, it's a 12-day itinerary, and it's super aggressive. I wouldn't recommend you try to do this itinerary in 12 days. And if you look to the left side of the screen, you're going to see how it goes around the west coast of Greece. That's just this particular program that I used to create this. It wouldn't go from 10 to 11. It wanted to do a big loop around it, but the actual distance between 10 and 11 is only about 90 miles. So Bodrum's in Turkey. It's got an international airport. It was a really big destination for Russians and people from the UK. Also, it's a lot of it's got a lot of flights from a lot of different places in Europe, so it's easy to board and not board people there. And also talking about, like, I always like to talk about owning the experience from door to door. There's some really good limo companies and private bus companies that you can pick the people up at the jet port or at the airport and bring them to the boat. And it's only about 36 kilometers, about a half-hour ride, so it's not too bad. Bodrum's also really good too, is if you had people that were flying in the night before, there's a couple of really good hotels. And at the end of this, I give you a whole list of hotels and restaurants in Bodrum that they can use. There's also stuff to do. So if you've got to kill time here due to weather, it's not a bad place. They've got a pretty good yacht club, and I believe they have reciprocity with all the other big yacht clubs. There's really good shopping, from high end to souvenirs. It's a pretty town. Next on the hit parade is Coast. Now, what I like to do on a charter is you want that big Hollywood opening, and so, but you don't want to have them. I think the maximum length of a boat ride that the guests should have when they get on board, especially if they board in the afternoon, because they're excited, they're raring to go. And this is only about a 10 nautical mile run. So by the time you get off the dock and get over there, I mean, they can see a little bit of the Greek Isles. They can go there and we can drop the hook right off coast. And the other thing that I found with charters as well is that they're really in the mood to get out there and get a couple of, well, it depends on the charter, but for the most part, my experience has been that most of the booze flow on that first night. And if you've got a younger crowd, there's a lot of really good nightlife and good spots right in coast. And there's enough for people to do and walk around, but there's also some nice anchorages where you can get them in the water. They can go for a swim. It's a great first stop. Now, the second stop on it is, and by the way, these islands are all in the Dodecanese group of islands, and we're going to be looking at two island groups, the Dodecanese and the Cyclades. So anyway, the next thing on the stop is, and pardon my pronunciation, though my grandfather was Greek, I never was able to master the language. This is, again, like how I like to build a charter is you ramp it up so they're excited, there's stuff to do, they're partying, they're having fun. But on the second day, you're winding it down just a bit. So we can go to this island, which is, again, it's just a short hop, just 8 miles from that first anchorage, rock up there and get them onto the beach, or they can walk through town. There's a couple of really good restaurants on this little island, and right across from this little island, there's another little island which has like a really cool temple on it, and there's great diving around there as well too. And then from there we go over to Lipsey. Again, this is a little bit of a longer run, but I'm winding things down again. This island is pretty bare. It's just mostly beaches. There's actually a lot of nude beaches on this island, so if they want to get naked, they can go get naked on the island. And not a whole lot to do. A great place for a great beach setup. And Asteria has a lot of great beach setups. We've got couches. We've got a lot of cool stuff that we can do on those beaches there. And that's where I would do this. And because this is right about the time that they're really starting to wind down. And then over to the island of Patmos, which is, again, now we're starting to ramp things up again. This is stuff to see. There's a place called the Cave of the Apocalypse on there, where one of the apostles went and he wrote the book of Revelations. So if you've got people that are into the history of Greece, which of course every single one of these islands is rife with history and rife with just amazing things to see. There's even today, you can be walking around or snorkeling in the beach and just pull up like an amphora, which is what they used to transport olive oil in, and you found an artifact that's probably 3,000 years old. It's the ultimate souvenir, and those are everywhere, all throughout these little beaches and little coves. This is pretty cool if you catch it on the right time. There's a lot of interesting festivals from a lot of different different religions, because this particular island is significant to a lot of different faiths. Now, Icaria is when you hear about the Mediterranean diet and you hear about all the longevity and everything, this is the island where that all happened. And again, this is like, I got the scene, of course, you see the little scene from the 300, Tonight We Dine in Hell. You could do a great theme party on this island, where this is where I would really bring on the Greek food. And we've got a chef on board the boat that he's a great Greek chef. Though I've had chefs that have told me that Greek food is really easy to cook. So I don't know what being a great Greek chef is, but food is where if the focus of your charter guests are are foodies, this is where I would really peak that part of the particular charter. And if you time it right, there's a lot of really good there's fests and like feasts that happen. And this is one of the things that's really cool about all these islands is that you can just be walking around and find some, like literally like a feast for some saint or some pagan god. It's a lot like Malta in that respect, that there's a lot of different, all these little islands and different towns have different customs. And sometimes you just get lucky and you'll walk right into something that's really impromptu. And I think that's the where really having a great crew on board comes into play, that they're able to kind of like scout these islands ahead of time. And that's what I would do, is that I would have the tender go ahead. So if the people don't want to go for the boat ride, we can get them on there, but we can get eyes on the ground and find out what's happening on those islands ahead of time. And that's way better than any internet search or anything. Now, here's where we kind of get off the beaten track, but I think it's worth mentioning, is the island of Mykonos. Mykonos. Now, Mykonos this is in the Cyclades Islands, and this is where I think that if they were kind of getting antsy on board and they like beaches and stuff, but if they wanted to go shopping here, you've got high-end shops, you've got nightlife again, you've got a lot of great restaurants on this island. But also too, it's like Mykonos was huge, a huge player in ancient Greek mythology. This is where Hercules slayed giants. This is where movies were filmed. There's a lot of really interesting stuff to do on this island. And of course, you've got those cool windmills there as well. The island of Paros. Paros is in the Cyclades as well. And it's a lot like Mykonos, but on Paros, what they're really known for here is more natural beauty. They've got better beaches. You can just look at the geography of the island and see there's like a lot of really cool, interesting coves. This would be a great place to go and do tender rides. And what's really, again, looking at Asteria with 4 tenders on board, we can go on a lot of really cool, interesting expeditions. And not just with the big north wind, but with the little zodiacs and stuff, we can get into a lot of spots that are really interesting, with snorkels, with cool little beaches. Yeah, this is a great little island. And again, if you get here and the weather's not 100%, there's still stuff to do on all of these islands. There's a cave with that goes back for about 45 million years. I wrote that in the description. Now, I put Athens on this itinerary just because some of you might be asking, well, what about Athens? Well, this is again, Athens. This is going to be more of a commercial port to get into. Depending on the boat you're going to be on, you're going to be using pilotage. I'm not 100% sure if if Asteria will need a pilot to get into Athens, but I'm willing to bet they would. That's if we wanted to get onto the dock. Pilotage fees is something that you probably want to explain to some of your charter clients, that in a lot of these different places, you might have to pay for pilotage. For those of you who don't know what pilotage is when you have to take a local expert on to get you into a particular port or get you through a particular area. Now, Athens, I could do a whole talk just on Athens and the stuff that's in there. But I just wanted to point it out that it is an option, and it's about 90 miles off the beaten path. Now, if you're in Athens, one of the coolest things to do after Athens is the Corinth Canal. You've probably seen the pictures of the yachts going through there. Corinth Canal is fascinating. It was attempted to be built by a lot of different Greek and Roman emperors. Nero was the one that gave it the best try, but it really wasn't completed until 1893. And you're definitely 100% going to need a pilot to go through this. But it's a really cool experience. I found that People love canals. Even the Cape Cod Canal, which I've gone through a million times with yachts, is always very popular, as is the Panama Canal, and it's something that they can check off their bucket list. At the end of course, it's about a three. There's protocol to going through there, but the captain on board the boat will be able to time it pretty well. But just a really neat run. On the other side, there's a good anchorage. There's a couple of good restaurants. There's some temples. Milos is a really cool island, and you're going to see on here on the charter that it's got just going all the way around, and that you don't have to do. We just go back through the Corinth Canal back to Milos, and it's a relatively quick run. It's only about 8 hours. But this is like where you'll see like those pictures of those amazing beaches in Greece. This is the place. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a volcanic island. There's a lot of really cool little restaurants and stuff. And also, this is where the Venus de Milo, the statue, of course, that's in the Louvre, was found. And then from there, it was given as a gift to I think it was Louis XIV is the one that brought that back into France. But anyway, yeah, so this is where the island of Milos, where the Venus de Milo was found. And of course, Santorini. Santorini, probably one of the most famous islands in the and again that's in the Cyclades. Cosmopolitan from way back when, bunch of movies. It's a very big wedding destination. It's where you can actually get close to an active volcano. And because of that volcano, just a lot of the fumes that it gives off create amazing sunsets. And you can just see a good picture. This is a good picture of Santorini with the sunsets. And again, really great shopping and great restaurants and a lot of really interesting history. And then as we head back to Bodrum, you've got Amorgos, which is, if I'm pronouncing that right, pardon me if my voice is a little off today. It's like I'm up on Cape Cod right now. It's like if you've seen those pictures of New York, all like brown and everything. It's very similar here today, and I woke up this morning with a sore throat, but yeah, it's smoky. Anyway. On Amorgos, hopefully it won't be smoky, but you get a really cool monastery there. And this is the place that's really known for those impromptu feasts that I had. And they've got a lot of different local dishes and such. And then finally, on the last day, what I like to do is go someplace that's really kind of secluded and untouched, and that's Astipalea. Just a nice beach, some great coves, and a great last spot to go before you go to Bodrum, back to Bodrum. Now, anybody that wants this particular itinerary, I've got on the bottom right here on Bodrum, I've got a bunch of different restaurants, attractions, private jet hubs, Bodrum limousine. If you need a florist, I've got it here. Good place to get wine and spirits. As a matter of fact, I've got those links on all of the destinations that I put in here, and then all you have to do is on the itineraries, you just click on the little thing, and it will give you Point Yacht Provisioners and point you to their website or their actual physical address. So that's about it. Now, good question. Trish asked the first question there. Are you able to drop off in Greece legally? And the answer to that question is no, you are not. You have to pick up your guests in Turkey, and you have to drop off the same number of guests in Turkey. Now, the question is like, well, can I have people join us in Greece and then as quote unquote a guest and then get off in Greece? That's a little bit of a gray zone. The official answer to that is no. But the unofficial answer to that is that's done all the time, and that would be at the captain's and the owner's discretion. Does anyone else have any questions? That's it? Nobody? So the approximate fees for clearing in and out of Turkey, that's going to depend on okay, here we go. That's going to depend on, yes, the LOA. That'll depend on the LOA and a few other factors. I don't know what those are off the top of my head. So what does the Turkish-Greek customs process look like? The Turkish side's not too bad. Bodrum is a yacht port. There are agents there that will make your life a whole lot, make your life easier. It's fairly standard. Nothing more than what we haven't seen elsewhere. In Greece, it can get a little confusing. They're not as dialed in as they are in Bodrum. I do not know what the fees are for the Corinth Canal in piloting fees. I'm going to say it's probably going to be a couple of $1,000. The guest capacity of Asteria right now is we have 6 staterooms on board. The 12 is the official guest capacity, but we have I've had privately on board that boat, I think we've had 16 people. Does anybody else have anything to say, or any comments? Anybody want anything? You can unmute yourself and talk if you'd like.
Hey, Sean, it's Gina.
Hi, Gina. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, is your itinerary going to be available online?
100%. That everybody that signed up will get a copy of that itinerary.
Super. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Great job.
Thank you. Is that it? Anybody? Nobody else? Nobody has a single question about chartering in Greece or the cool things that you can do in Greece or anything? Nothing? Well, if that's it for everybody,
I have a question for you.
Oh, Trish, thank you.
Yeah, hi. Well, can you talk? I mean, it's a really big boat, but I mean, you're in the Cyclades, and we all know about the Meltemi. I mean, how does the Meltemi impact a yacht like that?
How does the what?
The Meltemi winds, if the Meltemi.
Oh, yes, sorry.
When you're in the Cyclades, I mean, how is that going to impact?
Well, it's going to impact. I mean, it depends on the anchorage that you're in, but that boat's a tank. When I brought that, I mean, she draws close to 16 feet of water with 0-speed stabilizers. So at anchor, boat is a literal rock, especially for close to she's just slightly bigger than a 50 meter. But I mean, it's like most of that boat is underwater. So as a guest platform, she's really, really amazing. Well, thank you, Marilyn. I appreciate that. And the guest capacity boat, again, the official guest capacity is 12. Yeah, so regulations surrounding fishing and purchasing a license, those are going to be that's going to be dependent upon the island that you're at. I haven't come across any like you need a fishing license to fish regulations in my research. So, and that's looking through books like this online, and I did look for that, but but I think you're fine just throwing a rod over the side. There's a couple islands actually that encourage spearfishing. One of them is where is it? Yeah, so I can't pronounce it. Perismos has really good spearfishing, and we have a whole full spearfishing set on board the boat. You're welcome. Anybody else have anything? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Asteria is going to be there for the entire summer. As a matter of fact, after the charter season, she's going into the shipyard where we're going to get her painted in Greece. And then from there, she'll be available for charter. Probably not until next spring. And we're looking at heliskiing options in Iceland and in Greenland. We've got a couple of good heliskiing itineraries that are available. And then the other thing that we're looking at going to is back up into the beginning of the Northwest Passage, if anyone's interested in chartering there. Yeah, so there are regulations for, I mean, like once you clear into Greece, you're fine. And your guests can get on and off as much as they want. Well, thank you, Barbara. Well, with that, if no one else has any other questions, then we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for attending. I'm going to be doing one of these on New England. I've had a lot of New England captains reach out to me for a New England itinerary, and yeah, so I'm going to be doing a New England one as well. And if anyone wants to see anything, if anything going forward in the future, if you guys want to see anything specific or learn about anything specific, feel free to email me, Sean@worthavenueyachts.com. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. And again, one of the biggest tools I think that you guys do not utilize is a good, and I probably should get a kickback for this, but seaweather.net, get a subscription to that. It will save you. It's really gonna save a lot of back and forth between your captains and your clients and yourself. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you, everyone. All right. Well, till next time, feel free to email me any questions that you have, and then whoever signed up for it will get a copy of this itinerary. Have a great day.
Cognac!